So one thing is that we got Krista arrived this morning, and so it'd be good to hear a little bit about what you do.
So I want to say thank you for letting me come in today's event and today's ceremony. I am a positive Aboriginal woman, and when I say positive, I acknowledge HIV positive, but also being a positive woman and being a woman of health and well-being today. I come from Regina. I grew up in North Central. That's where you'll be going this evening. I grew up in North Central, so I grew up in a lot of poverty, a lot of determinants of health. I had a lot of traumatic events happen in my upbringing that I wasn't in any control of, you know. Anyhow, there was a lot of learning of hard lessons. Today I have a lot of wisdom, but I paid for that wisdom that I embody. I did a lot of searching for belonging, for acceptance, for connectivity. And I've been to a lot of dark places because of that searching. I really reclaimed my space and my role as a woman. I am still, you know, everywhere I go, I search for safety. I search for acceptance. And I always advocate that us positive people are part of the circle too. You know, like, let's flip it back here. You know, we didn't throw away our sick people back before settlers came to our land. We loved them. We walked with them with dignity and respect, and we took care of them in good ways. And so I really felt really pushed, I guess, and pulled into being able to, you know, not only empower myself by finding my voice, but also helping others. You know, I went from being, you know, being a statistic with, you know, homelessness, poverty, sexual abuse, violence, all of those things, to being a very empowered, headstrong advocate who has, you know, been to very many places on Turtle Island to see the sunrise and sunset in very different lands. And to me, this is, you know, what life's about. This is what life's about. It's about connection. It's about coming together. It's about the future. You know, it's about doing our work today in a good way out of love of our future. And I really look forward to these gatherings, you know, and connections, because it's in these rooms that I'm able to, you know, meet other spirits, encounter other people with like extreme knowledge, with extreme gifts inside, and, you know, they rub off. They rub off, very contagious. And this is what helps me to, you know, thrive, not just strive, but thrive. Oh, you know, I participated in the Visioning Health, which is an arts-based participatory approach to research. I've participated in it as a photo, taking pictures, and I found it to be a real strong component of research for myself. You know, I researched within myself. It was doing these surveys and participating in these stuff that helped me to do the research within myself, the research to be able to embody forgiveness to myself, like the you know, the depth and the gifts I've gotten out of being involved in research in a good way when people did it very dignified with me. You know, like it's totally it can you know, really empower an individual. You know, I've managed to forgive myself. I've managed to forgive my mother who is gone and passed. I've managed to heal. I've managed to be aware of these behaviors and rehabilitate my thought processes and everything. You know, I've managed to find great value in myself as an Anishinaabe. That's me. Thank you for giving me a safe space and to be able to share that with you, and you know that about me.
So what's emerged that you want to focus on and intentionally focus on for the afternoon? So I call it the rule of threes. There are 4 things in the rule of 3. The first one is focus. The second one is what resources do you need? The third one is what do you want to present? And the fourth one you choose. It's the unknown. It could be something you want to go with, a framework. We have the room, we have materials.
And if there's something that you're missing, we'll try and find it for you.
Oh.
Yeah, go on. Go on.
I think we have similar questions, but I'm confused about what you want from these presentations.
Yeah,
like what's our hoped outcome from?
And that's my follow-up question is, I wasn't here yesterday, so I apologize if you said this, but I'm still unclear what are we supposed to come out of this weekend with, or what is our goal? Why are we doing this? What is the point?
So what we're doing is collecting who we are and our stories and our practices. So we're becoming familiar with each other's story and practice and where you're coming from, in order to create a pathway, a guide for future practice and collaboration. So what we hope the outcome will be is new ways forward to work, really, together. So in terms of what will that look like, well, some of it will look like things that you pick up as you go along.
Like when we decided to create this, we have been working with the Barrows Tribal Council for 8-9 years now with youth, and now we're going on to the next stage of our work with them. It's about promoting suicide prevention through wellness promotion is the funding we got, and using arts-based stuff. And so inviting all of you here who have had experience working with arts-based research with various communities, but Aboriginal communities here and in Africa, that we could learn from you to help us. That's our selfish component of this, but hopefully in the process we all learn from each other to go back and improve our practice. So a lot of this is testing out new things, eh? You know, the group you're in with different people that you're going to be checking it out. It's, I guess, to create that safe space where we can do some testing of new ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Related to doing arts-based practice
With-
in communities.
Yes.
So that's the framework.
In communities with Aboriginal youth, is that what you're saying, Karen?
Okay.
Yes.
So that's the larger
Or
framework.
people,
Yes.
Aboriginal.
So there is a
Yes.
larger Aboriginal, that's the
Yeah.
Yeah, so larger framework,
Yeah, so
arts-based
some
practice.
people work with old.
Yes.
There are 3 things: arts-based practice in communities with Aboriginal people. That's the
You,
framework.
Aboriginal.
Yes.
Or people.
No, not just
I think part of what prevents me from, I think, more fully going into this is it really doesn't feel connected to an Indigenous way of doing art.
Yeah.
So I'd rather be making a drum or beating or creating a song
But what
or
we
regalia or something.
Yeah.
I see a dissonance in this discussion. It has to do with kind of a mismatch in goals. Because we have that overall goal of sharing ideas, sharing process, sharing ways of practice and means of practice. But then we're doing this image creation process that has a different goal to illustrate how you can do that, right? And so I think a lot of the kind of confusion is about which is the goal. So we have a goal within a goal. We're going to recognize this barriers and benefits process of the work and explore that in order to share some ideas about how we could do it better in a different context. You know, what can we build into that? And so we need to recognize that there are two goals. They're not necessarily competing, they're complementary. and one is within the other.
To me, I mean, you know, we might improve our methods, we might just improve our knowledge. So reflection, like anything that takes us ahead in our brains and is a good thing, I think. And getting to have the network and the community of practice too, for sure.
But which one would you choose to speak to?
For
Intellectual, physical, emotional, spiritual.
but for
For how technology affects your life.
probably spiritual.
Spiritual. Emotional, physical.
I guess I could go either direction, so do you have a preference?
Well, I'll take physical then.
Okay, so I'll
Because
take emotional.
here's what I'm going to suggest. This is a starting point. Feel free to change it. Okay. Do we have that laptop? Okay. The intellectual, you come into the spiritual, and then last you do the emotional. All right.
Yep.
Okay. So start. You've got your laptop.
Yeah.
Okay. So start with. Okay. Your back hurts. Your neck is stiff. This thing is destroying your body. Yeah. Okay? Speak intellectually.
Do not look away. Look exactly to what information is coming to you through your eyes.
My girl, I want you to come to ceremony. You know that I'm here. You know that you have a responsibility to learn our language, to learn our ceremonies. How are you going to pass that on if you're always on the computer? You have that funding application for your work, but how are you going to tell them about what we do? And you know, I think, you know, to Sam's point, at least what I kind of had a little out of body experience, because the only thing I could embody was my grandmother thinking about what I was going to say spiritually. So I, you know, support it, but I think at the same time, you know, I think about a lot of our young people, like in cities who are in prison in the child welfare system that we work with. They don't have access to necessarily go to ceremonies or, you know, go to elders, and like so there's a lot of talk now about producing videos and producing more technology, so they have access to those things that were taken from them. They didn't just lose them. And I think that's you know, that's something we have to keep discussing.
Art is also the way of imagining other structures, right? It's the space in which a different type of protection system can be envisioned that is not the police state that we currently see. So it's not enough to point to the flaws of current systems, but you know, what are the other modes of protectorship that can be reinvigorated, that actually will serve the people in a better way?
We're on a trust walk. You can come. Come and film us. I will. It's complicated. You know that feather.
When I was young, I didn't know. So I started to teach. And I went home and I asked my dad, and he said, "No, I don't know." I was like, "Okay." So we went and asked my grandfather, and then they said, "Well, no, you weren't supposed to do those." Why not? Because the women got to ask. Oh, really? I didn't know that. And then I started learning, asking a bit more, right? And then I realized that everybody who had teepee in my family, who owned the teepee, was not male. They were all females. They owned the village. They owned the lodges, right? They owned the homes. Because traditionally, they're the ones that constructed them. It was theirs. So when they asked them for a teepee liner, they asked an individual within that family, can you paint on this? And what a teepee liner has a functional use, right? It hangs down from the poles. You know how a teepee works. And it hangs down from the poles. And what it does is offer a funneling of wind to take the smoke up and flowers. So you can roll it up in the winter, and then the smoke will just go up. right? That's the way it's supposed to be. So anyway, on there, they would usually have an artist, I won't say an artist, but an individual, paint a story of the family, the TP line. So that, I found this out all through the research that I was doing for a year and a half, and I was like, okay, well, none of this stuff exists. Because, yeah, I can't go out to my home reserve and say, hey, who has TP line? Nobody doesn't. And the reason why they don't do them is because when the treaties were signed here, and basically we agreed to the schooling, the residential schools, and what they did was they got rid of all the male facets of, I guess, our families. Basically, our language for when we say Akitita, I guess, in Lakota, but it doesn't mean warrior. People say soldier, warrior, stuff like that. It doesn't mean that. It means protector. Because what do you do? Well, a long time ago, you used to have to protect the people that were in the lodges, and that was the job. When you remove the ability to collect food for your family, and the ability, not even the ability, the responsibility of protecting your family, what do you have? Nothing. And so what are these boys going on doing now? And from the ages of 12 to 18, 12 to 22, even up to 80, some of them, they're going out and they're trying to find their own ways of existing, a reason for existing. So men had the responsibility of the two-dimensional painting. This is the reason why you see those big shields in the museums and stuff like that, and there's fingers and finger marks and everything on them. It's a beautiful way to actually express who you are. So I said, I can't make a TP on there because I was never asked, but this is me being interpreted. We can take a piece of it, and just say, well, you know what, we can make a scroll. It doesn't have to be a big 5-foot long thing with a family history on it. It can be a roll-up scroll with a narrative of one individual telling their story. And so that's what I did with mine. It's like my advisor said, try it, see what happens. And when I tried it, it took me 2 weeks to reflect on what it is I was doing. I remember the history, well, not history, my story. The time I was, earliest memory was lightning flash. I remember that. I don't know anything else. And I remember seeing a Fred Flintstone bottle. It's like with sweet tea in it, I guess. It must have been, I just knew I liked it. And I must have been this big because I reached up to the table to get it. That's what I remember.
We don't know if it's going to be a large-scale product. It's more, the process is the product?
That's right.
Okay. So we're not like losers who didn't do our work.
So, of the three, I ask you to think, what's the most appropriate closure at the end, and what's the most appropriate beginning, and then the third group would be the middle. Any sense of where you might go in this next time?
Here's what we did. We started off by saying we need to get to know each other. And so we spent almost an hour just talking to each other and telling each other where we came from, how we came to this work, why we're all here. And then we decided that was an Indigenous methodology, to start from where we are and share our stories. And that was what we wanted to share. See, told you, very short. And then we talked about what was missing for us and what would have made it even better, which was, for us, it was really hard to talk about new methods of working with Aboriginal youth without having youth here with us. And that for a long time, communities have been told what they need, and we wanted to let youth tell us what they need. So that's a summary of our time together.
In our project, that's exactly what had to happen with us. We had to build relationships in our communities and let them know that we're working with them, not about them. So it was really important to build a relationship, and it took us a while to do that. So that's why we said that this is really important, to build relationships with each other first, and then you can maybe get some work done, and including the people who you want involved.
An opportunity. It felt empty, but when we sat with each other, I think we really felt connected and it felt meaningful.
You feel that? You feel that numbness, that tingling in your feet? You feel that pain in your arm? You spend so much time typing. You spend so much time looking at that image on that screen, what's it doing to your body? What's it doing to your physical self? It's tearing you apart. This thing is not your friend, it's killing you. Shh. Don't worry about your body. Think about the deadlines. Grant. Feel the information coming to you. This is the conduit to knowledge. This is wisdom.
What are you doing, my girl? It's Grandma. You spend so much time on the computer, so much time putting on Facebook and Twitter what you're doing, but you're not with us. You have to tell them about us all the time. They say they want to include us, but if they want to include us, we're not there to begin with. How are you going to make time for us? You know that you're supposed to be the keeper of our language, our ceremonies, the ways that we do things. But how do you do that if you're not there with us? You have to keep writing this grant, getting those resources and that proposal. But how are you going to tell them our ways? How are you going to explain something that can't be explained on paper? How are you going to solve suicide in a 3-hour workshop? It doesn't work like that. You know that it's about a way of life. You know that it's about youth leadership. You know that it's about making sure we make space for those generations coming up for us. I miss you, my girl. You haven't been with us. Where are you?
Well, I just don't know how I feel about this, you know? Gosh, I'm learning so many interesting things, and it's like a bridge. It takes me and transports me to other worlds. There's whole new perspectives there, things I never even knew existed. And then it connects me to people. I can see what my son is doing on the East Coast, and oh yeah, but then there's that grant deadline, and that really sucks. And gosh, it's a nice day, and I want to be outside, and I'm just typing, and my kids are getting older, and I'm so focused on making this happen, and God, that's really the pets, and but it's a bridge. I think about the people in the village, and my friend who gets health care now because of telemedicine, and it supports her. It's about balance.
You live a balanced life, you know, if it's, I mean, you know, those deadlines pass, and then you can't do the work. But yeah, like, watch me do my stretching exercises because of my back. Like, it was perfect, really perfect. I loved your words, especially. Really.
I just wanted to make a comment about the whole academic process that you folks, like, seem to be somebody who's writing a lot, who presumably is an academic or at least a grant writer. And it just occurred to me that, you know, in so many places, especially the university, we ask young people to work really hard in order to get security. And then by the time they get security, they've got embodied all those bad practices that led to that, but it's very difficult to change at that point. And the same thing happens with tenure. I always say if you don't take your tenure out for a really good run once in a while, you shouldn't have it. But people are so cautious when they don't have it, and then by the time they get it, they don't change any of their practices.
Yeah.
And those two things go together, you know. So you get all these props who have tenure and never take it for a walk, never use it to anything. So I think it's not just the physical; it's also the meaningful. Just a comment.
It would sounded like a cocoa.
Do you want to share?
Yeah, that's a lot of truth. I just see truth written all over that, you know, and having to be grounded and connected to the work that we're doing and with the people we do it for. And that, you know, I myself have been struggling with being able to maintain that balance and really be, you know, in the present, in my role, in the work that I do. And that in order to maintain and strive for that balance is to go and be connected back to the whole people in their ancient ways, which speaks to me, and integrating that in all my work that I do.
We had, you know, what you said, Krista, we had this interesting conversation at the end, because we changed the end. We were initially just gonna have her walk off without the laptop, and then I was like, well, I'm lying to myself if I'm gonna be like going out in the bush and never coming back to the laptop. So, you know, and you think about things like Idle No More, which were started on social media, right? And you know, it is that balance, but it's that danger of you know, for creating new methods of working with our communities, and things are being recorded and translated, and people do want you to solve suicide in a 3-hour workshop. That where is the way of life in that?
Yeah, I was going to comment on it. I really saw the Kokomas representing the ancient knowledge, and that ancient knowledge was coming around you, but you were not bringing it in at all. And the solution, it's a tough solution that you ended with, to walk away from the computer. That ancient knowledge is needed, and you need to embrace it like you did. But then what about the computer and that whole world that we live in of technology? You know, so I think you really represented ups and downs and tough choices.
Well, it's interesting because we got, so it was the 4 directions, and we're looking at my sweater, and what it actually says on my sweater is a youth camp we did in my community this summer, and this is Oct.5th, which means we are old ways. So we are old ways youth camp, and that's not what we intended to go in with it or come out with it, but that's